Welcome to the Business of Us podcast. September is in full swing. Apple is about to host its highly anticipated event. Fingers crossed the new iPhone will be awesome. Back to school theme is everywhere you look. One of the things that kids need to learn about is obviously finance. Okay, not for kids, but for app brands and developers, we want to share yet another App Talk interview conducted by Peggy and Sales with Andrew Davies, Chief Innovation Officer at Petal. Yes, you will hear about innovation in the app pricing and payment. Andrew is a brilliant speaker and really knows the space. He explains how Petal simplifies back office complexity, enables web-to-app monetization, shares best practices in pricing and retention, highlights data-driven strategies to reduce churn, and outlines a future shaped by AI, no-code tools, and democratized monetization. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, Andrew Davies, Chief Innovation Officer at Petal.
Hello, this is App Talks. Yes, we talk about apps, but we're also talking about a lot of other very interesting and exciting models and ways of getting people to your app. I'm talking about web to app, and that's why I'm talking also with Paddle. I'm talking with Andrew Davies, of course, CMO at Paddle. First of all, great to have you because something in your bio got me excited about this. Yeah, it was like where I say, give me a couple notes about yourself. And I read this and I thought, this is going to be a great interview. So I don't have notes. Who cares? Because I'm talking to someone who likes to be a disruptor. So this has to be exciting.
Absolutely. Got to be on the side of the disruptor.
Yeah. What does that mean, though? Does that carry over from just, disrupting in your family and keeping some order there? Or where does it come to Paddle?
So my first role was at Deloitte Consulting.
Okay.
Very much not the disruptor.
No.
Big Four. And I had a role with them where they funded my college, my university.
Okay.
So I was there from very early, 17 and a half. And I went to university, to college with one goal, which was to graduate with my own business so I could say no to the graduate job of Deloitte when I finalized.
And we can have that on camera, right?
Well,
that's okay.
It was so many
Sorry,
years
guys.
ago now, it doesn't matter.
No.
I loved my time there, loved my experience there, worked with them through my holidays and my vacations across 3 or 4 years. But I wanted to be doing something where there was so much more connection from effort to impact. And so I started my first business in my first term of university, which ended up in court in my second year of university, then started another one that failed. But by the time I graduated, I had something that was going to pay the rent. That was always wanting to be on the side of creating something, that 0 to 1 moment of being able to be in the chaos where everything's possible, but you've just got to get across the line and build something someone wants.
So you must feel really at home at Paddle.
It's one of the reasons I joined, yeah.
Because I met some other people who joined recently, and I went to your event the other night. So yes, it is an interesting company. But what's more interesting, I think, is what you are enabling and where you fit, because it is very much about subscription apps, and there's so much to keep in mind there. But the journey to construct web to app, maybe you could share a little bit about where you bring something special to that as Paddle, because we do know about the journey, but we really want to understand the hacks.
So I find it fascinating because as a business, for the last 12 years, have been building to serve web-based software, web-based AI businesses, web-based SaaS, prosumer, consumer, some B2B. When they want to sell around the world, there's all of this inherent complexity. Different currencies, different payment methods, different local sales tax law, different fraud rates. And we've just been helping all of these businesses, now 5,000 around the world, sell effectively, frictionlessly, compliantly everywhere else. Self-serve software.
Right.
And then suddenly, about a year ago, we had pretty scaled app developers start using us because they were monetizing on the web.
Yes.
And we had this pre-built infrastructure for doing that. That mirrors what Apple do if you're selling an iOS, because they do all of those things I just mentioned. And yet, if you don't use something like Paddle on the web, you've got to build together the piecemeal stack of a payment provider, plus a frauding tool, plus a subscription management tool, plus local tax computation and remittance in every country around the globe. And it becomes really really, really complicated. I was a founder before I became a CMO at Paddle. I had this thought around champagne problems. These problems that only occur when you have some success. And Paddle solves a whole bunch of champagne problems, because when you start selling, you have some revenue in different countries. That's when you've got these problems of back office financial complexity.
Yeah.
You've got customers in Lithuania, so you've got to remit tax to the local Lithuanian tax authority. And so Paddle solve all of these back office champagne problems that if you start a web channel and do web monetization, but don't think about them, they bite you later on.
Mm-hmm. What is a big misconception about that? Because I talk with a lot of app developers in the industry, and it's almost like privacy. It's an afterthought. I love it. I just love it because I know what's going to run into later on. So a misconception about this complexity.
The biggest misconception is that the complexity can't be resolved. So one of the ways I used to describe it is that we've seen these problems 1,000 times and we've solved them once and for all. Like, our business is to solve those back office problems. And so a founder, an app developer can focus on their product, their customer, building their team, the things that a founder should be focused on. Because one of the challenges that I faced as a founder, and everyone who's building a business does, is where do you deploy your time and effort? You can be doing everything. You're always the bottleneck. And so we're in this world where you can pass off huge pieces of your infrastructure to AWS, huge pieces of your payroll to an employee of record. You can pass off, if you're using iOS, a huge piece of your go-to-market distribution, payments infrastructure to Apple.
Yes.
And so Paddle is just one of those giants that you can stand on the shoulders of, so you can focus on the thing that really matters. So I think the misconception is that it can be resolved in the same way no one builds server racks anymore. We just go to AWS with a credit card.
Yeah.
And we often say second-time founders choose Paddle, because first time round, you don't really know what the problems are that are going to come tomorrow, and you face them reactively when they come. But second time round, you think, okay, I'll put something in place at the beginning that means I'm not building up debt for the future.
So where do you see your opportunity in the market when we think about, everything I'm hearing about web to app conversions? So, it's all coming back together. It's fascinating. It used to be like, for example, in gaming, they would say, well, first you launch on mobile and then you launch everywhere else. And now it's like, no, now you launch everywhere, period. So there's nothing so exciting or singular about apps anymore. So where's the opportunity for Paddle?
So you're describing there something that I find really interesting, because initially we were seeing large-scaled apps who now wanted to, partly because of the fee structure of Apple, partly because of retention mechanics they wanted to build, bringing volume or building volume, an increasing portion of their volume outside the App Store. They were diversifying their revenue streams. And if you talk to Eric Crowley at GP Bullhound, he'll say their customers, their clients, once you're beyond maybe 10, 20 million of ARR, you should aim for 30 or 40% of your revenue to be on web to diversify across these channels. So that was definitely our thesis, that this was a scaled problem that we were going to help solve. And that's definitely true. The fascinating thing is there are real benefits for doing it from day zero as well, because there are pockets of opportunity and leverage if you're doing multiple platforms, multiple channels, multiple funnels. The payback period, the time to get cash back in your pocket, is faster if you're doing web processing versus if it's locked up in Apple's ecosystem for 60 days.
True.
And if you've only got 10K a month to spend, that cycle time being faster certainly multiplies the speed of learning and testing and revenue into your business. So there are lots of good reasons, and there's also lots of good tooling has been built to make it simple at the early stage. So we've got a whole bunch of customers that we now have who have all web revenue, even though they're an app, or mostly web revenue, because they just started it first. And so, I think that's where we're seeing it go, is a growing maturity about the business case and understanding the business case, a growing maturity about the tooling stack, and part of both of those things meaning a growing number of very early stage apps trying this rather than leaving it to be a tomorrow problem.
And is it something where you also, because you said second-time founders, I like that, second-time founders, they'll come to Paddle. What about the founders, if it's gaming or non-gaming? Is this sort of agnostic, or is it built to those issues as well? Because, of course, the gaming companies, I do a lot of that because I also work for Pocket Gamer and look at content there, and everyone's talking about their web store. Everyone is going to be a shop. At the end of the day. Yeah.
So absolutely, we see it happening in gaming too. They were more aggressive on this, often more. They were earlier on this, and we've got some very scaled gaming companies who are doing exactly the same model through us. It does, there are verticals where it doesn't work. And so I think you have to be really careful to just watch some breakdown of a paywall that's of a web funnel that's working and copy it. There's some sectors where it struggles to work. An example would be kids apps and kids games, where my kids, I'm very happy for them to be within my iOS infrastructure browsing.
Yeah.
I'm not happy for them to do open web browsing.
Got it.
And so if they're the ones who are being targeted via web ads, well, they're just not going to see them because I don't really allow them to just browse around. So I think there are some sectors, and there's other reasons as well, why certain verticals are really leaning towards this.
There's a lot of knowledge sharing around these subscription apps because it can be so many different things that clinch the deal, that clinch that make that commitment because it is recurring cost. What are some thoughts or what are some observations you have from working with your customers about yes, literally what's working and how you're bringing that maybe also into Paddle as a product to make it work at scale?
Yeah, we see a lot of data. So about $1.4 billion goes through our platform, but we see about $19 billion ARR going through our metrics products that we're not actually processing, but we're seeing it process elsewhere. So there's a few things. Firstly, pricing experimentation, being aggressive on volume of pricing tests. If you are changing your price every quarter, you'll outperform someone who isn't by about 103% on ARPU. And that doesn't mean every pricing change is good. It just means you're building a muscle for testing. Retention. Many people don't think about churn until it happens. But a subscription is not forever in the consumer world. You should be planning for that churn event from the very first time that first ad you're showing someone, the first value prop you're showing someone, because at some point they'll probably churn. And so how are you allowing them to churn? Is there a cancellation flow? Are you offering them a downgrade or a pause or another way of experiencing your product in a lower cost environment? Are you getting data on why they're churning? So thinking about really interesting, nuanced retention mechanisms, I think is something that we're seeing work. And then we talk a lot about localization, true localization. In every country around the world, there are different perceptions and norms on the payment methods you should be using, on the price point based on willingness to pay, on the currency you should be showing, and of course on things like language. Also simple things like if you're in the US, showing the sales tax separately to the price, whereas in the UK, bundling it together, because that is the norm in those two countries. And if you don't go to the norm, you'll see a ding on your checkout. So there's lots of data we see on all of these different tactics and strategies. But honestly, across all of our base, I most like to reduce things down to the fundamentals because we love to get caught in tactics and channels and hacks and things that work. For me, as a marketer as well, if we've got a message that matters and we deeply understand, we intimately understand the sliver of the audience we want to go and serve, everything works. And if we don't have those two things, nothing works. And so beyond all the tactics, and we can talk about those in lots of depth, the outperforming marketers are ones who keep most of their focus on, do we really deeply understand who we're trying to serve? And do we make sure we've got a message that really resonates with them?
And also the friction. Have we reduced the friction by having it? Because as you said yourself, you can piecemeal this together. No one's stopping you. Go out and do it. Knock yourself out. Build a business tech stack to cover it. But would you want to do it is the question.
No founder set up to do that as their business, apart from founders like ours, I guess. But yeah.
How are you supporting, the founders, the companies? Because it's clearly, it's a service. So that's fine. But then, even at your event last night that I went to, there were people saying, it's about strategy, really. And to what extent do you find yourself now being Paddle, the strategy company, as opposed to Paddle, the services, tools, and removing complexity company?
It's a great question. And the way I think about Paddle is that our sales process is helping discover with the customer, with the person we're serving, whether we're the right solution.
Okay. And that's very fair.
Because
that's very different.
There's no teeth in our contract. If you sign up for Paddle,
all right,
you can turn us off tomorrow if it doesn't work.
Okay.
No worries at all. And so as a result, the successful customers are ones where they and we fully understand that this is the right thing for them. And we're both bought into that. We both put the effort in to discover that and then build that future because they're going to be successful. We're going to be successful. We're completely aligned with our customers' success because we charge a percentage of their revenue.
True, so you want them to grow.
Yeah, exactly. And so, honestly, Paddle as the strategy company is increasingly what we do. It's, can we provide data that helps people? Can we provide benchmarking? Can we provide playbooks and guidance? And so, with App Promotion, with the App Promotion Summit, we did a few things recently. We worked with Nathan Hudson, and we ran what we called the Web Revenue Labs, which was a 3-part strategy session on why web and how web and the scaling and optimization techniques around web. And so that was a case of just working through strategy with people, completely free of charge, just trying to help people think through the business case. So yeah, we're constantly in those conversations. Because
you also you don't need to, it's good of you to do it, but there's a sense of, making it possible for people to understand, and they have also realistic expectations, and it works out then as a relationship as well. Who comes to you from the company? Is it marketing? It seems to me like it would be marketing, product, analytics, all of the above, maybe even ASO knocking at your door. I don't know. Who comes to Paddle?
In the early days, it'll often be a founder decision.
Okay.
But yeah, increasingly it'll be the head of growth. Okay. In more scaled businesses, sometimes this is a board level business case and it'll be the CFO. So if you're doing 10, 30, 50, 100 million ARR, but you're not fully evolved on your web channel, that will be a CFO who's saying, actually, we've got an opportunity here to make significant margin gains. Please go and investigate. So yeah, most oftenly it's the head of growth or the founder.
And are these mobile first companies understanding that they left money on the table on the web, or is it the other way around, knowing that they can optimize the web?
Most often these are businesses who are wanting to work out if the math works on web. So they're asking the business case question, and they want to understand how quickly they can test that. And if it works, do they have a path to scale? So that's often the question they're coming in with. Although, yeah, sometimes it will be they've got a web channel and it's just not optimized. But usually these are people who are either they have nothing at all and they're just looking to get started and experiment, or one or two cases we've had where it's very scaled web processing, but they've got a big retention problem, or they're now seeing payments from around the world and they now need to have multiple currencies, and there's lots of stuff that Paddle can help with that too.
Well, let's take on retention, since that's the hot topic. I mean, it's growth through retention. It's all about sustainable growth. What was it? I think it was actually here at the App Promotion Summit. One of the sessions is, installs were so yesterday. The future is about growth at a different level. Where is that growth? Is it in retention? And if so, what are you doing to flag for that, for your customers, how to grow that? Because there are always signs that you're slipping, but you have to know the signs so you can do the corrections. And that all comes from a holistic view like Paddle would have.
So we look at this certainly from a macro. So one of the things we do is track macro trends. It was really interesting. About 6 months ago, we saw the first ever month of growth where the growth was predominantly driven by reactivation. So it's interesting. So we're looking at, ARR growth, ARR, churn, and the net, and then the reasons for it. And that was a case where I think what was happening was people who had previously churned out of subscription projects. These were mostly products. These were mostly prosumer, so they had some workplace relevance. They'd perhaps gone to a cheaper provider, or they hadn't had enough money for it for that quarter, got burned. Yeah. They were now coming back to reactivate. Really interesting. And so there's a clear strategy there. Are you running reactivation campaigns?
True.
And so what we're trying to do is see these data points and then give people a way to act on it, a so what. Now, if we go a couple of clicks deeper, I think you've got to remember that, as we said, some people are going to churn. People are all going to churn at some point. You've got to plan for that moment. So this idea of identifying, is it someone who's choosing to churn, or is it something? Is it accidental? Is it involuntary? So is it a credit card expiring? If it is, then there's a whole bunch of smart dunning you can do, predicting the right time to go and update the credit card, etc. Yeah. And so we do we have a bunch of product that helps you do that automatically. And then you've got people who actively churn, who click, I want to go and cancel. In those situations, we work through these things called salvage offers, where we're saying, okay, why do you want to churn? And so you're getting some data, some insight for your product team and for your marketing team. And then our data says you've got about 18 seconds maximum to pause that process, to get some insight and to offer them something else. In some consumer examples, it should be shorter, but you do not want to stop people canceling. Consumer law, consumer protection, service to the customer, they need to be able to cancel fast. But you want to just add a little bit of friction to ask them that question, why? So you get some data and insight. And secondly, okay, reposition in a positive light. Why did you join in the first place? What was it you loved about it?
Okay, and remind them.
Remind them.
A little nudge to remind them why they committed in the first
Exactly.
place.
And then the third thing is, would you consider a cheaper plan? Here's a $2.99 offer instead of your $9.99. Would you consider pausing for 3 months? Here's that offer. And you can normally have 4 or 5 of those options. And so case study that's live and public on our site. We did this with HubX, 200 million users globally. In the first, I think, 90 days, they saved $100,000 from 63% of their users clicking one of those salvage offers rather than just going straight through to churn, choosing to downgrade. Because I've been in that situation before.
Oh, yeah.
Downgrade. Where, I'd be more than happy to not pay for 3 months because I think I might use it in 3 months' time. I just don't need it now, and I don't want to go through the hassle of resetting up an account. So they've given me something of real value. Yeah. And so we run that data and we show for every ARPU band, for every average revenue per user band, that if you offer these salvage offers, your churn rate improves.
So that's so simple. That's part of it, is not overthinking. And maybe have another example of something where marketers, where companies, where growth experts in their companies overthink this, because there are many, many ways to make a negative into a positive if you can just reframe it.
I think one of the easy hacks when it comes to pricing and renewal pricing that is most relevant in a B2B context, where you have got a more active consideration of terms and conditions, so you need to have expectations aligned on this point, is to put in an RPI-linked price increase on the renewal.
Okay.
Because in an inflationary environment, prices are going up. Right. And if you just say there will be a 5% increase on next year's subscription, in any workplace tool, that's pretty appropriate. And yet if you're not doing that, you're creating a conversation you have to raise prices.
Yes.
Whereas if this is a tool that's going to renew anyway, and you're charging someone $100 per team member and they've got 100 team members on your plan, just building that into the contract for renewal means that it happens. And you have net revenue retention. Because
you've been upfront around it.
Been upfront.
You haven't.
There's a clear reason for it.
There's a reason for it, and you've given a reason for it. You're CMO, and I'm understanding a lot more about your company through this interview, but overall, because again, I'm in the industry, that's clear, but you are much more than I was thinking initially. So that means that you, as a CMO, have messaging and breadth to get out there about Paddle. How are you approaching that? What is your messaging?
What is our messaging? We're going to go geeky on marketing here.
Just a little bit geeky, because I don't know that we all know exactly what you do and how you do it, because it's quite a bit more than I had thought.
It's really interesting because we do a huge volume of stuff. And so reducing that down to a simple message is hard.
Yeah.
We're quite playful with our messaging. And so the way we wrap it up at the moment is we talk about the world needs more. Now, we're more a merchant of record. A merchant of record is the bundling of all of those back office tools. That's the kind of the way the market describes it. So we talk about the world needs more. Why settle for less? And we can talk in a very articulate fashion about what less looks like in terms of less safety, less compliance, less conversion, less retention. And so we think about that as our top line message, and then are able to break that down into competitive positioning, into how that applies to SaaS versus AI versus apps. I think when it comes to messaging, it's really important to make sure you've got a simple statement that you can that's a scaffold for everything you're talking about, but then you're able to go super deep, because the problem becomes if you've only got a big bumper sticker and there's nothing beyond it, then it becomes this kind of empty message. And so underneath that, we've got a whole bunch of ways to describe the problems that people face. We use words like phrases like second time founders choose Paddle, or wherever you want to take your app.
Are these yours, by the way?
Oh, some of them are, some of them are not.
That's a good one. There's some good ones there. And the more and less, that's very cool, because then you're very broad and you can evolve with the market. So.
Yeah. Rob, our president, came up with that one. We're often thinking that our job is to remove the complexity in our message. In fact, one of our company values is to paddle simply. We talk about paddling for others, paddling together, and paddling simply. And in a world which has got huge and increasing complexity, we ask all of our team members to take the time to deeply understand the problem in front of them so that they can communicate it simply. And so we think about that on a marketing function as well.
So you've obviously, been able to have messaging that will evolve as the company evolves. I mean, how can that, they're so fundamental that they'll be there no matter what we do, you know, whatever genre, whatever flavor is popular, and whatever thinking about hacking, location, whatever, all of that can change, but this can remain constant. So my thought is, where's Paddle going next?
So first thing is, we're going nowhere. It's
you
really
know what I
important.
mean.
Well, no, but
No?
because
Okay.
it's
All
really
right.
important because we count it as really important that we're a steward for 5,000 businesses. We're probably the most expensive line item on their costs, maybe above or below AWS if they've got lots of the web infrastructure. You know, we take care of their money. So it's really
Right.
important. So the most important answer was, we're going nowhere. We're built here.
Okay, well then
built-
I understand, because they got their money invested in you.
Exactly.
You're going to be there.
We'll
Got
be
it.
here. That's
Okay.
important.
All right.
The second part of it is, unlike some of the incumbents in the industry, we have a fully staffed product and engineering team, and we ship weekly. So there's updates that come through. So twice a year, I hold an event called Paddle Forward, which is our product event, and we just held it a month ago, where we get all of our product and engineering team to announce what they've been working on to our customer base. So firstly, we're going nowhere. But secondly, there's a huge amount of development in a few key areas. The first one is our core merchant of record. So more payment methods, making sure we have full coverage on currency, making sure there's real reliability and security about the platform.
Right.
Then secondly, we think about operate and grow. How do we help companies grow faster?
Yes.
So that's the data, the recommendations, how we can give strategy implementation for them. And then we have some specific other areas of how we're taking the product, and web to app is one of those. So we've now got a tiger team of product engineering, marketing, led by our VP of product, Lucas, that wakes up every day talking to scaled apps, small apps, mid-size apps, and devoting product and engineering resources to the tooling that will help them build web to app faster and scale it better. So there's all of those kind of areas. And then we think geographically. Our audience is already geographically spread. Our customer base, I can fly into almost every city in the world if they're in a non-sanctioned country, and there'll be a Paddle customer there. But this web to app thing, we see geographically, lots of Eastern Europe apps were early on it, and now it's flowing into Northern Europe. APAC's been doing some of it in the past, and now it's moving to America. It's one of the few trends I've seen that's going east to west rather than west to east.
That is fascinating.
So that's one area of real growth for us.
And the web to app, I mean, when I speak to marketers, they were saying, look, we can see the journey, we can adjust the journey. It was valuable, even if it didn't end up in a win. It was just like having that journey was so valuable in terms of data and understanding the customer. What is the appeal of it now, and why are you building to it?
Building to web to app, or build?
Yeah, build it. You're building to support web to app. You know, it's one of the pillars you just discussed.
Yeah.
Why?
We and several bankers, analysts in the space believe we are in the middle of a significant movement of two things. Firstly, movement of volume out of the major app stores. And there's been litigation there, people thinking of it as a walled garden,
DMA,
the distribution effects have become less, et cetera, et cetera. So there's something happening there. And I don't know if we're 10% through the way or 80% through the way, but there's a movement there that we need to build for. And there's a moment in time that we want to be positioned right for. That's one thing that's important. Really important that we do that fast, because at some point in time, everyone will have built out some web infrastructure, and they'll either have chosen Paddle or not someone. And so we want to be there at the beginning of that decision process. So that's one piece. But secondly, we believe that this world is just going to get more complicated. And so as AI impacts the development roadmap of a huge number of businesses, they're able to build stuff faster. More people are building things. People who've got no coding experience are able to launch apps and monetize apps very fast.
No code, we're in power now.
It's huge. I'm building a little app with my 13-year-old daughter at the weekends. I don't have any much coding experience at all. Certainly not for the last 20 years. But we're playing with these tools and building stuff. And so there's also a massive growth and explosion of creativity that we believe we should be building for here and making sure we're ready for. And so those are two things we think about. But I think the other piece is that when you are marketing on web, monetizing on web, you are able to see the entire funnel.
Yes.
You haven't got the data loss that you have because of the privacy tracking, et cetera, within Apple.
Yes.
So when you're able to do that, you're able to optimize everything end to end, and that's really powerful. And so the way we're thinking about this and investing it is to try and help app growth leaders when they build that web funnel, how can we give them visibility, but also the tooling to optimize the stack end to end, from the audience segment targeting all the way through to the LTV.
Yeah.
And so that's something we want to build for as well.
Wow. So actually, you're on quite a mission. If I think about it, I put it all together. This is not just about making business work or removing complexity. You're actually democratizing it for everyone who's going to be a maker to make, actually, and to sell. Because what's the fun of making if you can't if you can't monetize it?
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's really important to us. Making it super easy to implement this and be compliant everywhere, so you've got a chance of selling everywhere, is part of our core mission.
And we're happy you're going to be there for a longer time. And Andrew, we're running out of time, speaking of time, but it has been fascinating to understand a little bit more about Paddle, and not just what it does, but where it's going and the vision. The vision is extremely exciting. And we're lucky that you have that vision. So thank you.
Total pleasure. Really glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us.
And that was the episode 244, Boost App Revenue, Intelligent Pricing and Payment, featuring the App Talk interview with Andrew Davies, Chief Innovation Officer at Paddle. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please, don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.